And we're back in the room. Thank you very much, Aoibhinn. That was wonderful. And thank you, Jole, for the chakra information and brief meditation overview there. They're fabulous. And I love the way those two dovetailed into each other as well there. So cool.
Yes, and it is a good fit. What I'm going to talk about is kind of a great follow-up.
I love it. I love the way that these things just kind of fit together so naturally. It's a great start for our first event, and I'm very grateful for you being here, Laurie. I know that we've done some work before, the interview and stuff, and I love what you do, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to explain this again out to a broader audience. So, Laurie, this is the space clearing, soulful space clearing, and that sort of thing.
That's what I'm going to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've got a bunch of questions as well that I'll let you kind of talk, and then I'll chip in as with anything that I feel need. You know, like I'd like to explore a little bit deeper on behalf of our community who are here with us now.
Wonderful. So it's just a quick follow-up and maybe sort of sum up of what Jole and Aoibhinn just said. Energy, everything is energy. And most people know and accept by now that everything is energy. It was proven decades ago, scientifically. So really what we're talking about today, it may sound out there for some people, and I understand that, but the way I see it is this is some of the practical understanding and application of the fact that everything is energy in a little nutshell.
Yeah.
For me, energy and it's possible, and our imagination are the bridges to working with energy, because for the most part, we can't see it with the naked eye. We did see those pictures, which was awesome.
Yeah, I like that. I think it kind of added a lot to sort of like your understanding, to be able to actually physically see the auric colors
right
around. Yeah,
it just like ultraviolet light, just because we can't see something doesn't mean it's not there.
this is very true.
But we can see manifestations of things, which I'm going to sort of touch on in a minute. So one thing I want to say about energy, it moves at the speed of light and thought. And as already discussed, our energy impacts each other.
Yes.
We interact with and we impact our environments as much as we do other people. One thing I wanted to say is one of the big differences in how we experience energy is if we are a thermostat or a thermometer. Thermometer, the temperature changes based on the environment. Thermostat is setting the temperature.
Right.
So my view is the empowering approach to life is, as best as we can, we set our temperature. And what happens is the world around us, people, the environment tends to adjust to ours. If you go into a party very, very happy, it tends to uplift other people, and they're going to be drawn to you. Not just that they're drawn to you, but that the energy is raised. It just becomes lighter and happier. If someone comes into a party, it's whichever energy is strongest wins in a situation, whether it's positive or negative. If someone comes into a party very, very angry, it's going to affect people. The vibe is going to go down. And we've all had experience of that, I think, whether we recognize or not, that the energy is a source of it. I mean, in that case, it's emotional energy.
Yeah, no, when you say that, you kind of, because you don't think, typically from a mainstream perspective, we don't think about it in those terms, because as you say, this is an invisible force. But the energy is there. And we just intuitively feel it.
Right. We even not that intuitive, or people that would maybe not be totally ready to hear everything that's being said today. Still, most people are aware of how they're impacted, or they're impacting other people on some level, even if it just comes back to them next week. Because someone says, when you did this, it made me feel this. That's simple. I mean, it has to do with energy. Energy is the root, the source of everything.
Yes.
As far as we know now, we might find something even beyond that in the lighter and finer. That's what we know today.
Mm.
That was like my big picture I wanted to start with. It, in a way, I'm just kind of wrapping up in a simple way what they're saying as an intro to what I want to talk about.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it definitely warrants explanation there as well, because again, I'm taking this to, like, to me, that my vision is for this to reach a mainstream audience, and I know that people who are already on the spiritual path will also already get much of the background of what we've spoken about. But I know that, again, if I flip the clock back not so long ago, it kind of didn't, you know, to me, I was my physical body. That was it.
Right.
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 And that's from a mainstream perspective, how we perceive things to
Right.
be. But
It's
this
what
is
you're
now
identified with.
right. But
Yeah.
so hence, I do think it definitely warrants the explanation. And that kind of leads me to sort of ask about the space clearing and the energy
Right.
implications on that. How does that fit together?
Yes, this is the perfect follow-up to everything we already heard. And just a little sidebar to respond to what you just said. We identify with our bodies. Some identify more with their minds. It's all valid because we're operating on all these cylinders, whether we notice or not.
Yeah.
The physical, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual. Okay. So what is space clearing? Energetic space clearing, as opposed to vacuuming your floor. It's the process of removing stagnant or negative energy from a physical space and replacing it with positive and fresh energy. Part of the idea is present time. We're
Mm.
bringing it into present time. So, as we touched on, have you ever experienced walking into a room and it felt weird or uncomfortable? You're not sure why. Maybe there has just been an argument and you can almost feel it hanging in the air. People could say you could have cut the air with a knife.
Right.
This is like, these are average, these are common concepts where what we're talking about is that the atmosphere felt so dense. It's like that argument is physically tangible, even though it's not. So, with that as our background, physical spaces, homes, offices, cars, outdoor areas can all accumulate negative energy over time. And because of various factors like people's emotions, especially strong emotions, or past events that took place there.
Mm.
I'll give you a positive example. There's I can't think what it's called. There's this self-realization center in LA that has this sort of meditative pond, and it's very big, and you can walk around, and there's flowers and stuff, and people are walking around in kind of hushed tones mostly. For me and a friend of mine who's not that tuned into the stuff, we walked into there, and it was like we were so affected by the peaceful vibe, all the intentions of all the other people have walked through here, all the prayers, all the everything. It just was such a nice vibe and noticeably different from outside the gate, including for my friend who is more like, I'm a meat suit. Is that like, as you should say?
Right. Yeah. And
He's getting it though. He got it.
yeah. And this is a very interesting point, because one of the things that I've learned for myself over the last few years is within your own home environment, whether it's your apartment, your flat, your home, your house, whatever, to create your own sacred space, right?
Right.
Which that means more to, like, the way you explain that now, that just reinforces the importance of doing that, because it's not
Right.
the fact it's quiet, it's the fact that you're infusing it with positive energy.
It's certain energy and intentions. And I'm going to, at the end of this, give some, ideas what you can do for yourself to do that.
Mm.
What I do is more like bring in the big guns, so to speak, not to, sorry to have a violent metaphor. So that was a positive example, but a lot of what can happen is emotions, events, arguments, things like that, they can leave this stagnant energy like a residue, just the same way everyday living leaves dust and grime. On the physical level, it has to be cleaned up, if you want it to be clean and in present time. If you think about it, dust and grime is from the past. It's your skin cells that fell off. It's the leftover of your dinner crumbs, or
Yes. Yes.
So present time is a part of this. So this is true. Office, homes, hotels, Airbnbs. I mean, I have this dream of working more with hotels and Airbnbs because so many people are coming in and out. I've gone into a hotel room where I was so uncomfortable, I had to clean it just to be able to spend the night there. Because a
Right.
lot
That makes
happen. People
total
really let
sense.
their hair down in
Yeah.
hotel rooms.
Yeah. You want to, I mean, it would be nice to be able to go and pick your hotel room based off the energy of the people that had been there before, but they don't allow that.
Right. They don't really have that. Maybe in the future, that's a really interesting idea for like a sci-fi story that you get to choose. You get to get a bio of the people that stayed there, but then you might not know how they might have really let their hair down in there and all their demons came out. Or that's an interesting story. Anyway, I'm going to keep that in mind. Anyway, so the goal of energetic space clearing is to shift the energy of the space and create a more harmonious and balanced environment. And the core principles have stood the test of time because um, even since ancient times, civilizations, tribes, groups of people have worked with the energy in different ways, you know, acknowledging that this energetic level of things matters and can make a difference. So let's just, my big picture, what is space clearing?
Hmm. Yeah. No, it is. There was one other thing that kind of came to mind actually. Oh, and also the bit you said about like the idea of the hotel room, the story that could be created from that. It's the other
Mhm.
thing that kind of I also came to mind there, that you as an author and a
As a writer.
screenplay writer and stuff like that. Hey, I'm looking
Right.
forward to seeing who's going to play what role in a future years from the story that stems from this. But yeah.
Yes, well, yeah, I'm a writer, so you really sparked my imagination right there. Um,
Yeah, and I just wanted to say as well quickly that it also sparked another thought. I remember I think it's within New Earth, Eckhart Tolle. He was talking about where he'd had somebody in that he'd been helping, and they had very, very angry energy, and they were really, really, and he diffused the situation to a point, but she was really in a bad place. And then he left his office to go across the street to a restaurant where this huge argument suddenly sparked off just near him from
mm,
these people who were just acting totally out of character. And he realized what had happened. He'd effectively, the energy couldn't go into him, but it was still around him. Right?
Interesting, because he's such a thermostat that he's holding a certain something, but that energy had to go somewhere,
Right.
and maybe he doesn't exactly know how to transmute it and transform it. So it was like a cloud on him. That's fascinating, and that makes a lot of sense to me.
Mm.
Energy can never be killed, by the way. Energy can never be killed. It can
This is
never
true.
die. It can only change and transmute.
Yes.
Okay.
Transmuting of energy as opposed to,
That's the science part of the science. I didn't make that
yes.
up.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So the soulful space clearing, you know,
Soulful space clearing. That's what I call my approach to space clearing.
mm,
Um, which combines space clearing with soul medicine, which is the kind of energy work, what I call my energy work that I do with people. So what space clearing, it brings the energy of the home or the business or the car or whatever into balance by removing the stuck or stagnant energy, emotional residue from former occupants' experiences in the space. It also can address the earth and the effects of technology that may be adversely affecting you. That's part of what I do, which other approaches deal with that too. It's not unique to me. I'm going to tell you in a moment what is unique about what I do. So when there's a clear, balanced energy moving through your environment, life flows more smoothly and you feel nourished and supported, like you talked about your sacred space of your home. So what I do, I go room by room and I clear energy and get it into present time. And I'm getting info at the same time. I might be muscle testing, I'm picking up and making notes on the kind of energy that is in each room. And Jole and I had, a same training with the same teacher, Judy Nelson, and this is where I first got into this. And there can be energies, entities, not to scare anyone. You might look at it as colorful way of looking at, such as anchor energy. I see it as sharks.
mm,
When people go on the attack, and I might get the vibe there's sharks in this room. Not necessarily they're literally sharks, but it's energy that when I'm doing a clearing, I want to address that. So I'm going room to room, I'm getting information, whether I'm doing it in person or what I learned down during the pandemic is I can do it long distance, just like I could do healing long distance. But the way we do it is with like a FaceTime through each room where they're showing me everything. So I'm cleaning everything, taking my notes, and or once they did a video beforehand, and I just dealt with the video. So then I've gone room to room. I've worked on the whole whatever it is, a house, a building, or whatever, and then I treat the building like a person, and I give them a thorough soul medicine, energy healing, including trauma healing,
Mm.
based on what I learned from when I was doing the basic clearing. Now, that basic clearing is something that probably would need to be done more often if I was just doing that.
Right.
Um, what I'm doing is more long lasting because it's going more to the root and core of issues. Like, and I could tell you some of the crazy things I've seen and experienced, dead bodies and all kinds of stuff. So, energetically, the memory of the dead body, the home is affected by that. An old
Mm.
home has had more experiences, or
Yeah.
like a hotel room has had more experiences. So, and then part of this healing, so I do this healing. I have an approach that is a combination, what I call soul medicine. It's a combination of theta healing, my approach to it, which is not usually what's taught, hands-on energy healing somewhat. That's more like chakra healing. I think Jole touched on that.
Mm.
And some other techniques. There's some past life stuff.
Mm.
Sometimes if it was, we're doing a healing, we might go have you energetically go to past lives, experience, get information. There's a healing process with that. And then on top of that, I do more healing.
Mm.
That's sort of theta based.
Right.
Anyway, I like to do things very thorough. My dad was a scientist.
Yeah. Yeah.
The engineer and a scientist. My mom was a psychologist. So I'm doing the same thing with the building. What Jolie and I believe she was probably taught this too by our same teacher, is that every building has an entity or like a guardian spirit that you usually see it like a bird. So part of what I'm doing when I'm getting to the working with the building like a person is I'm treating them as an entity. I speak with them. I've had interesting conversations, very different personalities and looks. They all generally have some kind of bird-like thing. I've seen them sitting on top, lying across, huge wingspan. One was this very sort of flamboyant man.
Oh,
And
wow.
the building, which I didn't know, I found out later, was in this very, let's say, gay part of town of New York in
Okay.
Christopher
Right.
Street, near Christopher Street. So it kind of made sense because probably whoever was building this building, there was something about it
Uh,
that gave this building this personality that fit perfectly with Christopher Street. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting.
isn't it?
So, and I've also seen, this is interesting too. I was at a building, a friend of mine, we actually went to this class together. He was working in this building that had little office, kind of rundown building, little offices where people were doing foreclosures. And this was in 2018, and all kinds of kind of not very nice
Right.
businesses, if you know what I mean. When I went to look at the building entity, it was covered with oil, like that black tar. I don't know if you saw that. There's been documentaries or news things where ducks are covered in oil
Yeah.
spills and they're
Yeah.
just trying to get. That's what I saw on
Oh,
top
wow.
of this building. It's like
That's not
oily.
nice.
It made sense. It was like unctuous type of salespeople, and there
Yeah.
was an oily, yucky vibe to the whole thing. So I did a healing on it. Couldn't do all the spaces because I didn't have access, but I did his room and the building in general.
Hmm.
So, and then part of this wrapping it up of my healing is setting intentions. I set intentions specific to the place. I mean, often with a home that it's a sanctuary, um, harmonious relationships. If there's a bedroom, romance, maybe. A bunch of intentions is what I said. I often talk to the person beforehand,
Right.
whose ever space it is, to, they want to feel safe and secure, creative, productive. And of course, I have my whole list that I kind of have some positive things like that, but I like to get something a little more specific by
Yes.
getting to know the people. So, as I said, one of the main benefits of my approach is the results are long lasting.
Mm.
It's very powerful, it's very deep. So, it doesn't need to be done very often. I could give you an example.
Yeah. That would be great.
I had a note, I did this place, it's a production company. And this is a guy very open to this stuff. He was introduced me from a client of his worked for him. A
Right.
client of mine worked for him. So he gave me this little comment, and this is like the shortened version. It's 9 months later, and everyone still comments about how relaxed and creative our office makes them feel. I believe your space clearing work actually helped us get more clients. Okay, 10 years later, he hired me again
Yeah.
because someone had been there. He didn't tell me this till afterwards. He had these built rooms built out upstairs with bathrooms of, and this guy was staying overnight, staying there. And he was wanting to help him, but the guy, was troubled. He was depressed. He was doing drug stuff. And I'm like, this room, I didn't know anything about this guy staying there. I said, this room has issues. There's some real sadness. There's possibly drug addiction. There's this kind of stuff. And he is like, well, guess what? That makes a lot of sense because I've had someone staying in our office overnight for a month. And yeah, he seems to be quite troubled. So I think I'm going to have to get rid of him. But part of what I was doing was cleaning up the energy. That's why he had me come, because he was, getting a bad vibe in his office. So
Mm.
anyway,
Yeah.
that's just an example. Oh, I have more good example of
Oh, yeah.
a house that
Always
I
up for
have.
examples.
This is great. And I'll tell you, I think you're probably getting the idea of the benefits. I have a list here to share, but I had a house, an old house. The first part was built in the 20s, and it was added on to over the years. And it was on this corner, and it was next to this great big wall that was like an empty lot, but this great big yellow wall. And then it kind of went right to my wall and my garage all the way down. So, first thing when I moved in here, I was fairly new to energy work,
Mm.
but I was getting very tuned in. And eyes, I'd close my eyes at night or just taking out eyeballs, pairs of eyes coming at me.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
oh my goodness, there's stuff here that wants. I mean, what my teacher said, I talked to her about this. Judy, she's not my teacher now, but I was, or then, but we were still in touch. She's like, yeah, when you get really tuned into energy, ghosts, spirits, whatever, can sense that, and they're like, you can help them. So it's up to
Wow.
you, but you can help them, leave and go to the light. And
Yes.
she kind of reinforced how to do that, which is part of what I do with the soulful space clearing. Is if there's stuff like that, I help them go to light. Some people I found, they kind of like the idea of spirits hanging around. Are they helping me or not? To me, it's not necessary. They might be helpful, they might be not. But
Mm.
just like you don't want someone's energy inside your head, I
Mm.
don't think you want them in your home. You can still ask for benefits, but with support, help, security, but at a little bit of a distance and boundaries, as was mentioned. Just like in the class, I'm bringing up Judy again. I mean, she's been very influential in both of us. One thing I learned was something she taught us is if someone not in a body, or they could be in a body, but they're sending energy to you, messages, whatever, it could be confusing. So ask them to be 10 feet behind you and to give their messages to your higher self. And I found that to be very helpful. And I feel it's kind of similar with a home. Talk to the building entity
Mm.
or whatever, appreciate the love and the help, but with healthy boundaries. So one thing I did in this, so one thing I did was that, and I got into the habit of, cleaning all the rooms every week. Like when I did my housekeeping, I also went around and did this energy cleaning the rooms and healing on the building. And it was a little bit of a sketchy neighborhood. And I noticed people were tagging this wall a lot, graffiti.
Mm.
And they would go down this wall and also do sometimes my garage door. So I don't like that. So I did, like Jill, I talked about roses,
Mm.
and that's technique, simple, I'm gonna share. I, do my energy work, and I would include that wall, and I would imagine the wall covered with gold, present time. That's part of it and part of the protection of a room or a house. And roses, just covered with roses. And I was intending the rose says, which is part of what rose can do, is I love you, but I have thorns. So stay outside. Not something I made up, it's training. Jole and I
Right.
got, but I would give it like extra, like I would ask the roses to absolutely pour love onto anyone walking by because it was a bit of a sketchy neighborhood and I felt people in my neighborhood needed love.
Yeah.
They could benefit. Anyone walking by here now can benefit.
That's
Guess what?
that's a really good way of
Tagging almost
looking at it.
completely stopped.
Wow. You see, and I understand it all makes sense. I mean, again, like I kind of still have a connection to mainstream. And I kind of like when we discuss these things, I know it's real and I know it's right. I kind of think, wow, there's a lot of eureka moments here that all make a lot of sense. I mean, it's interesting actually, because I remember when I moved in here and we were doing some video kind of work, Jole and I, and she looked at the building entity, she said, it's turtle energy.
Interesting. Hiding. Needs protection. And that's very interesting because it's usually bird-like energy. So
right.
that's fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I've
there's
got a
no set
turtle.
rules.
It's a converted old chapel, you see. So it's kind of like it's been around for a long time. I don't know whether that makes a difference. But anyway, it is fascinating that all these the way these things are all linked together. Now, the other thing that you'd mentioned as well, I mean, you do homes, you've done offices. It goes beyond that as well, though, right? I mean, cars.
Oh yeah. I always do the car, the backyard, the front yard. I glean a lot of information and it's part of the property. Like the first one I did long distance was this huge house in Kentucky. They wanted to sell it. So, they took me around. I mean, it took forever and a day to go all the floors and the bathrooms and this and that. And in this big yard, I saw all the weird energy on the front porch. I did the whole thing. And in the garage, I kind of found out the issue. They were having trouble selling it. And there was an issue with one of the owners, one of the family, and stuff they were keeping in a box energetically in the garage. I mean, open your imagination because this house was telling me that it's like it felt like it had to keep this for him, this energy for him. And so I had to teach it, to clear it. It was getting the house to understand that he's now living somewhere else and it's okay. And it was interesting. It took them a while, but they did eventually sell it.
That is amazing. And the car thing.
Another one.
Sorry, carry on.
That's okay. I'm just going to read off some of the benefits I've collected here. Oh. Can help reduce stress, improve sleep quality, boost creativity, enhance overall feelings of happiness, peace, and harmony with others. It can help attract abundance, prosperity, and opportunities. Creates a balanced environment that can nourish and support you fully, release the stuck or stagnant energy, which may be blocking you, balances and harmonizes the technology that may be adversely affecting you. Part of what I do. Create new possibilities, bring a sense of peace and joy to your environment, reduce stress, support greater health and vitality. It's a direct link. Although it doesn't sound like it is, helps you more easily sell or rent a home or business location in go ahead. What did you want to say?
Oh yeah, no. One thing came to mind actually when we were talking about the things that can be cleared, and I remembered Stephen King, the movie Christine, the car.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time in the car. Yeah, the car has energy.
He needed to bring you in, I think, but then they would never have made a movie out of it then. So there are
an imaginative writer. He did what he could do that.
Maybe Stephen King knows a thing or two as well, on a deeper level. But yeah,
absolutely. Fantastic. Yeah, I have an imagination as the bridge. I have just one more little example to share because I find this interesting because this was a friend of mine that was extremely skeptical. I pretty much had to force him into it. Letting me do it. I mean, I had to twist his arm to let me do a space clearing on his place. This is what he said. My flat was built in the early 1930s, so you can imagine all the history and energy that had passed through here, both good and bad. Laurie evaluated my space and advised me of certain types of negative energy present, which she cleared. The space now feels lighter, fresher, and more expansive. Since her clearing, things have improved in my life, and all my guests love coming over and hanging out and always comment that my place has such good energy.
Wow.
This is someone that I brought kicking and screaming to a space clearing.
Because and again, from a logical perspective, I understand why they would be reluctant and kind of think.
Right. He just hadn't. It wasn't his realm of.
No,
I don't know. He's a computer expert and an actor.
I respect people's views of not getting this because that was me, and I do.
Me too. That. I was pretty skeptical too when I got into
it. but the more I learn about this stuff, the more I dig into this under the surface, I realize how fantastic it is once you get that eureka moment and you realize this is real. And actually, we can have so much control over our lives and our environment.
Right. So much more than we thought. Too much.
Exactly.
I mean, we don't control everything or other people, but there's a lot we can do.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. We can control the way we respond to what happens around us, but we can't necessarily control the external environment, except in certain cases like this, where you can go
we
in
can
and,
have control over the energy. Yes.
right.
I have more to say. That is going to take more than 2 minutes. I hope this is going to be okay.
Go for it.
Things you can do for yourself. The Chinese name Feng Shui apparently derived from the ancient Indian tradition of Vastu. I've been reading a book about Vastu. It describes working with the energy flow on a physical level with organizing the space and symbolism, such as, you know, the 2 yellow birds or a painting not showing something you don't want to experience. I think we've all been exposed to a lot of that.
Right.
It doesn't really heal the energy, but it can adjust the energy. Clearing stuff that you don't need, hoarding, or that makes you emotionally triggered in a negative way. Hoarding creates stagnant energy. Releasing things can release energy, such as getting rid of a former boyfriend's t-shirt. That can help you get in the present time and get over that and get the new boyfriend. Marie Kondo, I love Marie Kondo. She's doing things on a physical level that you can see how emotionally healing, if you've ever seen her show, by helping people clear up their objects and their possessions. She gets people emotionally releasing and healing. And I agree with her idea that keep the things that spark joy and or that serve you, or you have an emotional attachment that is a positive, like my mom gave me this and she's no longer with us and it's a treasure. But if it sparks a negative emotion, like maybe the boyfriend's t-shirt, you don't need it.
Yeah.
And you're going to be better off. You're going to feel better. Also, like getting your hair cut. That all the energy is gone. It's a great feeling to me anyway.
Yeah. It does make you think about life differently. You know,
this is part of the control that we have, like you said. This is part of the say that we have of not being victims of energy in our own past experiences. Now, energy clearing of a space, it can involve various techniques, most very famously smudging with sage. That's burning sage in all the corners of the room, burning incense, using crystals, playing music. I like to listen to happy, upbeat music.
Right.
And yes, it is reverberating. It's vibration. What is energy? It's vibration.
Yes.
Sound is vibration. It can reverberate into the walls of your home. Chanting. And those things are fun. I want to make an important point about this. Ritual can benefit us. It can be grounding, soothing. It can help us create new habits, and it can build momentum. I want to make the point that there's no exactly right or wrong way of doing any of this. To me, those things are props, and I don't need any of them to do the deep healing on you and your home. They're fun, and we are physical beings, so we like the physical. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. What I urge people is to make it their own and not feel like you have to have a very precise ritual or something's going to go wrong. That is like to the extreme. It's like OCD, and that can be crippling. Like I'm going to do my ritual, but I don't have any more white candles. So what?
Yeah.
Just do it anyway. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I think that there's a really important point, I suppose, that you're saying there, really, which is all about when you have joy in doing something, you know, like if you make it into a chore and it's very ritualistic and you don't, you know, if it doesn't fit inside the box, you get it brings concern, it brings stress. Whereas
it's bringing the opposite of what your goal of what you want.
Exactly.
Yeah, approach it with joy, with fun, with pleasure, play with it, use your creativity. That maybe I'll arrange these a different way or whatever. Yeah. Or I don't have all my props today. So what?
Yeah.
Like one thing that I have that I don't know where I learned this, but I have a bell that anytime I get a check or money physically, cash, I ring the bell and celebrate and I clean it. That's my ritual. Wow. If one day I got a check, I get some cash and I forget to clean it, I forget to ring my bell, it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to beat myself up over that. That's just a fun habit that I've cultivated.
And that's quite, that on itself, you know, when you make that point and you take that point in, that's really very liberating, isn't it?
Yes, that's my point. I want you to feel liberated and have fun with it and enjoy it. Because yes, rituals have a very wonderful long history with humans, and they have a lot of benefits. They can get us in, they can do a lot of benefits, and especially the momentum of the habit. However, even more than precise rituals, or what I'm calling props, and believe me, I have a lot of them. I'm not dissing props. I love it. Even more important and helpful and beneficial is imagination and intention setting. Those are the bridge to the energy. Like, I'm going to have fun doing this every day. I'm going to feel happier and happier every time I do this, or whatever results you want from doing. You want your home to be harmonious, healthy, sanctuary, beautiful, aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah. I mean, there's a good reason why Albert Einstein said that imagination is more important than knowledge. Right?
Imagination is what creates everything man-made, and
right.
It creates our law of attraction stuff, our visioning and imagining and expecting and putting positive energy toward the things that we want to experience and become. So I have a couple more things, which is just some of our training on something you can do. I've made it simplified so anyone could do this. How to clean a room in a very simple way without any need. You can also sage, do whatever you want. This is just with the energy. Stand outside the room and just imagine and intend all negative or even emotional energy stuck in the room turns bright red. And you can imagine a big sinkhole in the middle of the room, and it's just sucked down there, suctioned down to the center of the earth. And we intend, I'm going to intend for you for the future in case you forget, it turns into neutral, creative energy. And now, fill the room with gold. With your imagination, you can imagine the roof comes off and a huge bucket or a pitcher of gold is just filling up the room, filling up the walls, filling the floor. And I like to set the intention, I'm walking on sunshine. Or I would like, when I'm doing it for a place, a big home or something, or an event, I like to intend everyone is walking on sunshine. And you see, people feel happier when they walk on that floor. Now, the next step, I've already sort of touched on this. You can imagine gold coming out of your hand and make a circle around every window, every doorway. Just in the intention, what is your intention? This is the intention we were taught. Only those who love me and have my best whatever's at heart. I can't think of the word.
My best interests at heart, or
my best interest at heart. And that's what I do. That's part of what I do when I'm going around to each of the rooms, when I'm doing someone's house or office or something. Only those who love, all the people who live here and have their best intentions at heart are welcome here. So I'm doing the gold, I'm saying that. And then also, if it's an outdoor window or door, or roses, lots of roses, however you want. I love you. Anyone walking by, I love you unconditionally. I got thorns. So only if you're welcome are you going to be welcome. That's all I was going to say.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. I love that. It's such an eye-opener, and I think that between yourself, between like Jole and Aoibhinn, it really has been so enlightening today. But not just that, but also we have Tia Kansara of Replenish Earth, because she was the one who effectively filled the same slot on the UK one, making the Akash Yours. So again, as another topic that dovetails so nicely with everything we've got going, and Tia is amazing as well. So I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful to Tia as well as yourself and Jole and Aoibhinn for the knowledge and information that you brought to us today. I know we've run over by a few minutes, but that's because we have, no, you don't need to apologize. It's well worth running over when the quality of the information is as good as it is, right? So I think that all I'm going to say really, I suppose, is thank you. And I look forward to doing this again, because this is one of the things, this is the first live event that Elevated Planet has put forward today on the 25th of Feb. But we plan to continue this and even go into live in-person events as well, whether it's in America or whether it's over here.
I mean, you're off to a wonderful start. Same thing I was just talking about, intentions. You're setting intentions.
Yes.
positive intentions to help enlighten, entertain, uplift people, give them tools, practical tools.
And I learned so much along the way as well. So there's a slightly selfish act to it as well. But no, I love it. I love it. But I love sharing
There's
this
a positive
information.
side to selfishness, a very positive side.
Very true. Thank you, Laurie. I look forward to the next one, and we can delve deeper into various things. I know that you've got a million and one things to share with us. So
thanks for having. Yeah, and like on your website, I would just say on your website you have my article about what to look for in a healer or an intuitive.
yes, yes,
Like that
that's
can be
right.
very helpful.
And you can certainly, speaking to our audience out there, you can certainly access Laurie and also Jole and also Aoibhinn through the elevatedplanet.life website. I know also Soul Connect, which is your and Jole's site as well.
Right. Soulconnect.info.
Right, that's it. Soulconnect.info. So we're accessible and we welcome those questions. Elevatedplanet.life, any questions on there, then we will come back to you with our responses. So thank you. So thank you, everybody. And thank you again to Laurie, and thank you to Jole, and thank you to Aoibhinn. And other than that, we shall say good night from the UK and good afternoon to the United States. And there's Jole. She's back.
Bye. It was so wonderful, Laurie. That was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
It's my joy and pleasure. Really,
yes.
It's fun.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you all. And we shall be back with more in the next few weeks.